to know. Just let me know. Just take your time. Young nigga, my nigga, stay on your grind.
So guys, if you're watching and you've just tuned in, you are watching a live seminar in London St. Paul's for the Bella Networking Seminar, and we have got 5 experts who are giving loads of tips and hints on how to protect your brand and how to grow your brand. So I think a big thanks to Ken again for all of that information. And as they say, cash is king, but I'm sure that you would agree that your brand is the lifeblood of your business. So if you don't have a trademark, I will upload Ken's information, and I would really recommend that you have a call with him or have a consultation. I also want to just shout out how networking works, because I've known Lucas IP for about 6 years now. And since January, I've been hosting the BellaNetworking Facebook shows on the Monday at Nucleus's offices. So I want to say a big thank you for that. So without further ado, I would love to introduce a bonus speaker, which is Clayton Coke. And he's going to be talking about how do you get paid on time. So imagine you have a great brand. It's not infringed by anybody else. You market your brand, you test it, you sell it to customers, but what about if you don't get paid? So I'm so excited to hear what tips he can give us so that we're not chasing for those dreaded
I'm Clayton
invoices.
Coke. I'm the Managing Director and Founder of BellaNetworking Ltd. We provide ethical debt recovery services and business debt prevention services. Now, when you say ethical debt recovery, that usually sounds like an oxymoron to most people, and they're probably wondering why I'm not wearing a Kevlar flak jacket of some sort. Debt recovery's moved on dramatically, absolutely in leaps and bounds, especially in the last 16 years since we've been doing it. Our approach is somewhat different to other people to describe ethical debt recovery. It's a way of engaging with debtors on behalf of your client in a way that's non-combative, that doesn't involve lots of legal proceedings, but actually getting to the core of where the difficulty and the problem lies in the process, and hopefully getting our clients paid quickly. So we've been in existence now for 16 years. We work within 2 main subsets. It's debt recovery and debt prevention. 2 major sets of clients, which is the professional sector, architects, lawyers, barristers, solicitors, surveyors, accountants, doctors, surgeons, that type of ilk. Also, SMEs who are not going to be left out, up to 50 million turnover. Now, effectively, I want to try today to give you an overview of things that you can use practically in your business. We do run debt prevention training, but that's for another time. And if that people want to talk and ask about that, that option is there. But it's all the little things that you can do as a business which can help smooth the path in order to actually getting paid. But I'm going to use a different quote to start off with today, which is John Chambers, who was the CEO at Cisco, which is an IT company. And he once said, there are 2 types of companies, those that have been hacked and those who don't know that they've been hacked. You'll be thinking that's making you run for your computers or your phones now, and wondering at the end of the day, have I found a black dot on my screen? If that doesn't leave you running for your computer, it should do. But I'm not here to talk about computers. What I'm here to talk about is that in my world, there are 2 types of people. People who've experienced debt recovery problems and people who are sitting there waiting for it to happen. So there's a lot that you can do for yourselves as businesses in order to make that happen. So we've heard a lot about branding, and branding is incredibly important for your business. As obviously we've seen from all the speakers here, James, Ken, Barnaby, everybody knows that everybody's a walking, talking brand. But after you protect your brand, what's next? Your brand helps you make money. Your brand helps you raise invoices in the hope of getting paid. But what happens when the process breaks down? So the first thing that people always come along and they send us an email or they send us a voicemail, usually in a blind panic. And sometimes I can usually work out within about 15 minutes whether or not we're onto a runner, whether the whole thing is going to be a complete disaster and I should go away and make myself a cup of tea, or there is going to be some practical resolution that we can give to people as a result of the telephone call. The first thing is, do the legals. When we're in business and when we're involved in business, we're so keen on getting that deal. We're so keen on being in a position to say, I've got a business, I'm making money, and my business is doing well. But so many of these situations fall flat for one simple reason. None of the legal background has been done. And all agreements, as far as I'm concerned, should be built on a solid foundation. There's a saying, and I think it's a biblical one, that if you build your house on shifting sands, then you're not going to have much of a house to return to. So most claims for debt recovery are won or lost because the legal aspect hasn't been taken care of. It's a fundamental mistake not to have access to your invoices, timesheets, terms of business, contracts, purchase orders, all of the little things that I ask for, and somebody says, I've got a WhatsApp message, will that do? It's helpful, but no judge wants to sit and look at my phone reading WhatsApp messages. It just doesn't work that way. So get your legals in order. Once you have that, that is the foundation to say that you're actually doing business, that you're actually making things happen, and that's something that somebody can then be in a position, if you find yourself wanting to chase for a debt, that they can be in a position to help you. You've got to help them to help you. Now, the next set of instructions I'm giving to a certain extent is actually doing the work. You'd be surprised that we offer goods, we offer services as part of our business relationship. And in doing so, the fact is, it's amazing how many debtors, sometimes the debtors get upset as well. They come back and they say, oh, Mr. Coke, this is terrible. This guy, he said he was going to give me 100 widgets. I've got 85 widgets and he just won't deliver the other 15. That's why I haven't paid. My normal answer is, why didn't you pay him for 85 widgets? But in the alternative, if he's asked for 100 widgets and 100 widgets are part of the contract, then 100 widgets need to be delivered. Don't expect payment if you haven't fully provided the goods or the service that you say you're supposed to. It sounds fundamental, but the amount of times I've had to literally act as a go-between between my client and the debtor in order to ensure that something gets done. It's incredibly important, and it's one of those things that a lot of people think about. They think it's I've got a contract, we've got a deal, pay me. Nobody wants to be in a position to be paying for something that they haven't had. Customer satisfaction, point 3. I think it was Simon and Garfunkel once sang, keep the customer satisfied. And although cash is king, there will be no cash if you don't meet your customer's satisfaction. How many people here do customer satisfaction surveys? Okay, I don't. The simple reason is that it's one of those things that hasn't happened. However, the reality of it is customer satisfaction is incredibly important to us as a business, and that's something that we take for granted, because as a business, doing the type of business that we do, if people are not engaged in a particular way to walk away and say, I've worked with PRMS, and as a business, they've provided me with a certain amount of satisfaction, even if we don't recover the debt, we want to be in that position to be able to do so. So that's another way that you can ensure that you are going to get paid. If a customer is satisfied, they are more likely to pay you. Lastly, don't be afraid to ask for help. So many businesses find themselves in a scenario where they are stuck. They've done everything that they can possibly do in order to push a particular relationship forward. And what they'll say is, oh, Mr. Coke, this is really terrible. I've been trying to contact this guy for 3 months. He won't pick up the phone. He won't answer emails, etc., etc. It's time to escalate. And sometimes the big drama for a lot of businesses, and it will be for all of you, how many people are afraid that escalating a debt problem is going to find them in a position where they're going to lose that customer. Does anybody think that? There's nothing wrong to it. It's a common reaction. It's a common reaction. People feel that if I escalate this, this is going to lose me a customer, or a client, or a paying prospect. The reality of it is that if you do escalate your debt recovery problem, it's nothing that's terrible. You're in business. You could never imagine Richard Branson. Richard Branson's dead. Richard Branson, for example, turning around and saying, oh, this is going so well, I'm just going to sit back on Necker Island, and this money that's owed me, I'm not going to collect it. You won't get to where you need to get to. It's one of those sad things that is the perils of doing business. So it's fortunate that you are all in business. I can see some of you and I recognize a few of you from other business interactions. But being afraid of actually recovering your money is not something to be taken lightly. But you do need to embrace it, because in the future, we are getting into an area where business is becoming more problematic, more difficult. And if you keep those tips in mind and keep focused with your businesses, it will help you to grow. So I want to close on that point and say thank you very much for listening to what I've had to say. I'm Clayton Coke. I'm the founder, managing director of PRMS. If you feel like you want to have a chat later about some of the issues I've raised, please feel free to do so. And if you want to raise a question during the Q&A, that would be fantastic. Thank you to everybody. Thanks a lot.
So you are watching the Facebook show. If you've just joined us, the Bella Networking Facebook show, we've just had Clayton sharing some very, very valuable tips on how to get those invoices paid. So I hope that you've enjoyed that. All the speakers' contact details. All the speakers' details will be in the bio if you want to get in touch with them. Or just drop me a line and I'll be happy to introduce you. So,
Just let me know. Just take your time. Y'all nigga, my niggas stay